Welcome back, ladies and gentle ladies. Smashcat here today with another installment of my mastery analysis. Today we're going to be going into the tank masteries. Usually on a tank, I do a 9-21-0. To start, you're going to have 9 points in offense, 21 points in defense, and usually 0 in utility. This one's subjective, but I like double-edged sword. Melee deal an additional 2% damage and receive an additional 1% damage. Range, it's 1.5% across the board. So this helps me out because most tanks are melees. This helps with last hits, it helps with harassing. It does make you take 1% more damage, so if you're just a pure tank, this might not be the best idea for you. Fury, attack speed isn't too good on most tank champions, but some tank champions can utilize it, so go with Fury or go with Sorcery, it's up to you, but most tanks typically require cooldown reduction because they have a high base damage on their spells. Butcher, I'm ignoring Butcher just for the sole fact that I want to be able to get 4 points down here. If you don't want to take double-edged sword, you can easily take Butcher off that. Expose weakness, not a bad spell, but we just don't have points for it. So we're going to go 3 brute force or 3 mental force. This is ability power or attack damage respectively. And then that allows you to put 1 point into the next tier down. This gives 6 ability power, this gives 4 attack damage. So it really depends what kind of tank you're playing. If you're playing, say, 921 Olaf, you would take Martial Mastery and Brute Force. If you were playing Shen, for example, you'd probably want to go with Arcane Mastery and Mental Force. The 21 points in defense are actually pretty straightforward, and they're almost the same no matter what. A lot of it depends on who the enemy is in your lane. Block and Unyielding, these are always going to be 2 of your major talents. Where the big discrepancy comes in is if you're going to be building full tank or if you're going to start out with damage items. So for Shyvana, for example, if you do a 921 Shyvana, I usually do a 21-9, but some people like to do a 921. You're going to want to get recovery over enchanted armor. Veteran Scars, pretty straightforward, 36 health. That's going to be a few ticks of ignite early game, so that's huge. Juggernaut, this is a huge spell and it should always be picked up. These are the core right here. Block, Unyielding, Veteran Scars, and Juggernaut. And then you take recovery or enchanted armor based on how you plan to build. If you're going to be getting a lot of armor and magic resist, enchanted armor is huge. And if you plan on getting some attack damage items early, recovery is huge. Then we're going down to oppression. This is very situational. If you like to get a frozen mallet, if you have a champion with an AoE slow, say for example Olaf again, this is great because you can slow them with your axes and just keep this perma slow. And it also reduces the damage taken by 3%. The biggest thing with hardiness and resistance is you want to have at least 1 point in each, because if you'll notice, the first point is worth 2 points of armor, then the second point and the third point are both worth 1.5. Reinforced armor is great against champions if they have someone like a Draven or if they have a Yasuo. And evasive is actually great against most magic dealing champions, as a lot of the damage that you'll see is going to be AoE damage. Swiftness, this is a great talent for some champions. I picked this up on Hecarim, and I also pick it up on Tank Vi when I choose to go that route. This will actually reduce the slow from when she's charging her Q, which is pretty useful. Perseverance, this is one of the best talents in the defensive tree. You regenerate 2% of your missing health every 5 seconds. This is what's going to allow you to stay in lane and be able to out-sustain those 21-9 melee carries top. You're not going to do quite as much damage to them as they do to you, but you're going to be able to regenerate a lot of that back, and you're going to be able to mitigate a lot off the top. So once you get your first defensive item, Perseverance is really going to help out. On that same note, Second Wind also works with the Perseverance passive, as well as any health regen that you have. If you're below 25% health, all regen is increased by 10%. Keep in mind, this doesn't mean that you gain 10% spell vamp, 10% lifesteal. If you have no lifesteal, this doesn't matter. So if you have 20% lifesteal, this is going to give you 2% lifesteal on top of it, and all the extra health regen. This stack's great if you're on a champion that likes to get a Spirit Visage and some type of lifesteal. This is huge. Now we'll come over to Legendary Guardian. This is one of the best spells in the whole tree. This goes up by 1 armor and 0.5 magic resist per point per nearby enemy champion. With 4 armor and 2 magic resist for each nearby champion, if they have 5 champions, that's 20 armor and 10 magic resist. This is a huge buff. This is going to make you tanky in team fights. It's huge to pick up on initiator champions especially. The reason we don't go 4 points here is because Second Wind, that 1 point, is slightly more valuable than 1 armor and 0.5 magic resist, just because that can save your life multiple times. And also, it'll save your life without you having to do anything. Runic Blessing, I feel like this is a trap. This talent can sometimes be useful but more times than not, the shield's gone before you actually get into any kind of conflict. The biggest part is, the shield doesn't regenerate when you return to the base, the shield actually only regenerates when you die. So in order for this to be a useful talent, you need to be dying a lot. I don't recommend this talent. I think it's a waste of a point. And now we get Tenacious. Reduces the duration of crowd control effects by 15%. This actually stacks with your Mercury trains. So that's the basic tank masteries. If you're playing ranked and you have a chance to see your opponent, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take points out and adjust your talents based on who you're facing. For example, like I said earlier, if you're facing a Yasuo, you're going to want to take reinforced armor. So that's going to be a great point for you to invest in. If you're playing against, say, a Cho'Gath, evasive is huge, 4% reduced damage from all AoE spells. These talents can save your life. And while I said you want to have at least 1 point in, it might be worth it for you, depending who your matchup is, to drop 2 points out of one of these to go 3 into the other side. There isn't a huge difference here in the trees between AP and AD, so really the only difference is offense. And like I mentioned, it's Arcane Mastery versus Martial Mastery, Fury versus Sorcery, and Double-Edged Sword versus Butcher. So you find out which one works best for you, leave it in the comments below and let me know. I personally prefer Double-Edged Sword. I think the 2% damage makes up for more than Butcher. As always guys, thanks so much for the support. The League forums, you guys are always fun to hang out with there. We're actually making our own website now, smashcatgaming.com, and it should be up shortly. So take a look at that. I'll leave a link in the description. Make sure to like and subscribe. Peace.
Hello? Hello? My name is Borat, and I like Smashcat. And I also subscribe. I don't just like him. He's #1 league player in all of Kazakhstan. Very nice.